Hello and welcome to the show. I think we're good to go now. We had Danny Sheehan just lost his internet, but it looks like it might be back, which is a good thing. Yes, it looks like we're in business. So thank you all for jumping over from the other show we had earlier. And so there's two streams this week, and we have attorney Danny Sheehan on, who has done so many amazing things throughout his career. And I'm really excited that he is involved in trying to have some UAP transparency, which I think is very important these days. And we have an UAP Disclosure Act of sorts that was proposed by Chuck Schumer that is in jeopardy. And that's what we're here to talk about. Hello, Danny.
Greetings, Martin. How are you?
Can you hear me okay? Yeah, there you
I've
are.
got
Phew, your internet crashed. Boy, I'm glad you're back. Just a few seconds. That's why we're a couple minutes late here. Yeah. Oh, is that right? Well, thank you. So glad to have you on. We met at DC in line at the on July 26th. We were there to see David Grush. You had a much better seat than I did, but at least I got in the door. I was glad to be there. It was fascinating. That whole day was fascinating. So let's talk about, first of all, if you would, what the Schumer Act more or less is, what's involved in it, and then what happened last. I think it was right around Thanksgiving Day or the day after. It seems like everything yeah. So let's talk about what that is and what happened.
Sure. Okay. Well, what the Schumer bill is it's a proposed amendment, a supplement actually, to the National Defense Authorization Act. The National Defense Authorization Act is an omnibus statute that is passed every single year, just like around December 21st, right before the members of Congress go home for the Christmas and New Year's holidays, ending the term of the House of Representatives. And so that they bundle all of the different kind of defense spending, all the way from the $500 coffee pots in the officers' clubs to the nuclear powered aircraft carriers and submarines, and the F-18 Super Hornets that they want to build more of. And so what we had done is we had crafted a statute, a 64-page supplement to go into the 1,000-page National Defense Authorization Act that was going to continue the process that has been begun over the last couple of years to take more and more aggressive positions, demanding that the elements inside the American government and inside American aerospace industry come forward with the information that they have about UFOs and about the pilots or sources of the UFOs, and provide that information to Congress, because they have been not only withholding all that information from Congress for 75 years, but they've been lying to Congress while they've been lying to the American people about their knowledge of this. And they have been engaged in an aggressive program that has been now proven, that we've gotten documents through the Freedom of Information Act that have revealed the fact that the Central Intelligence Agency and the Defense Department has had for 50 years or more an aggressive campaign of destroying the lives of people who try to report any of these contacts with UFOs, not only inside the government and inside the military, but even private civilians. And so that we have been moving steadily, the group of us that are in what is called the UFO community, to try to compel the government of the United States in our democracy to reveal this information, beginning to reveal it to Congress, at least, to at least reveal the information to our elected representatives, and then to have the elected representatives in turn reveal as much of this to our American people as they can, without jeopardizing individual means of, doing spying on opponents and in the means by which they do their work. and revealing nuclear secrets, about how to build an atomic bomb, that we're not asking for that. What we're saying is, look, you've got to tell the Congress, and the Congress has to tell the American people what it is that's going on here, and stop lying to us. Now, I became involved in it most recently when Lou Elizondo reached out to me. Lou Elizondo was the director of a top secret Pentagon Defense Department study about the UFO phenomenon that was instigated by Senator Reid, Harry Reid, when he was the majority leader of the Senate. He demanded that $20 million, $22 million, actually, $22 million was appropriated to pay for this secret study that was going to be done and an updating of the information about the UFOs. But the bottom line is that Lou kept running into roadblocks everywhere. That not only was he being denied the access to the information that he needed to study the UFO phenomenon, but he discovered that extraordinarily high-ranking people inside our government were being denied access to the same information, including the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. There were secretaries of defense that weren't briefed in. There were presidents that were not briefed in about this issue. And he wrote a letter to Secretary of State Maddox complaining about this. And his letter was intercepted, and they refused to present it to the Secretary of Defense. And so he resigned in protest over this. And he brought with him these 3 videos that he brought to the New York Times with the support of Christopher Mellon, who was the Assistant Secretary of Defense, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence for the United States Defense Department under both President Bill Clinton and W. Bush. And the 2 of them brought this information to the New York Times, and the New York Times Board of Editors agreed to publish it. And they did on the evening of December 16th of 2017. And then in the morning paper of December 17th, on the front page of the Sunday New York Times, they published this article revealing the fact that there was this top secret program that was going on inside the Pentagon to investigate the UFO phenomenon, while the Pentagon officials were lying to the public, saying we don't know anything about UFOs, they're not real, we've already looked into this, there's nothing going on here, there's nothing to see here, just move on.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they were lying again. And the New York Times basically called them out on that. And since that time, December 17th of 2017, for the last 5 years, that we've been engaged with the UFO community, pushing forward to try to get more and more and more information out about this. And this bill is, in a sense, the culmination of that entire process that's been going on since 2017. We got the majority leader of the Senate, Chuck Schumer, to introduce this bill. It's completely bipartisan. You've got not only Marco Rubio from Florida, the Republican deputy head of the Senate Intelligence Committee. You've got Mike Rounds from South Dakota. You've got Senator from New York. You've got the overwhelming majority of both political parties support this to set up this particular process. And the bottom line is the bottom line is that we were rolling to get this thing put together. We ended up establishing a compromise between the
Danny,
people.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to interrupt you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yep. You've got an internet issue. Right now, I'd like for you to stop and go down to the settings down below.
Let me get it. Get in a second here.
Are you using your hotspot? Did I hear you say that? You might have to call in that phone number that I gave you. Yes, I believe you're going to have to call in that phone number I gave you. And yep, that's what's going to happen. So I apologize, everyone watching this live. Let's see. I'm going to put myself back here. We're going to try to get him back. It looks like he's back. Let's see. Okay. I don't know why it's not showing up. Oh, it's freezing down there. Danny, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you would, please call the phone number that I gave you prior when you had the incident happen at first, and let's get you on the phone. All right. So we're all ready for that. All right. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have the show producer, Chanel, call him. Unfortunately, we won't be able to take calls when that happens. But I got to put a phone number in here, and we'll be in business in just a minute here. Looked like he came back for a second. So I apologize. This is what happens sometimes when there's live shows going on. Okay. Looks like he's making an attempt to come back in. We'll give that a try. So, yeah, here we go. Let's see. I don't think it's... all right. So I still think there's an issue. So if you can hear me, Danny, please call that phone number. Looks okay right this very second, but there's definitely issues.
We had a call.
Yep, you're going to have to... You're going to have to give us a call. I'm afraid that's the way we're going to have to do is on the phone. So that number I gave you earlier, why don't you hang up on the internet here?
Isn't this good right now?
For this very second, yeah, it was freezing just a few seconds ago, though. But just be prepared that if it freezes up again, you're going to have to call the number back, okay?
Okay.
And
I'll stand by on that then.
Yep. Nope. It's there's a problem. I need you to call that number, please. All right. All right. So I apologize, everyone. It's again, this is just what happens sometimes when you're doing live radio. Everything was working perfectly before. Let's see. He's calling my phone number, not that number. Okay. Hold on just a moment, everyone. I'll be right back. I would like to say listen to this nice music, but I don't have any. And okay, I'm going to have Chanel call 2626. Daniel, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're calling my cell number. I need you to call the number that I gave you, the 855 number. I mean, we could try this again. I mean, it looks like the internet's working for you. Nope, it's not. Okay. So, yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. He's calling, so it should. He should be back here in just a second on the line. Okay. I'm going to try. Okay. We have a bunch of things going on here. So let me just talk to you while I'm waiting to see how this will all work out. So you can go on our website, podcastufo.com. You'll see the latest blog there by Charles Lear, but you can also go into the either show notes or the show that's up there now showing Danny Sheehan You can go there and you can see down, if you click continue, you'll see what you can do in like a grassroots effort to try to stop this thing from happening, to try to stop this bill from getting killed. So you can see how you can contact. There's just Twitter handles there at this point. Let's see. We have some questions. All right. Yeah, he's in. Danny's actually in his office, and he has an IT guy right next to him. And unfortunately, it's just not. Danny, if you can hear me, wave your hand. Can you hear me, Danny? Wave your hand if you hear me. Okay, so I need you to call this phone number, and that is where we will bring you back on the show. That's 855. I mean, your internet looks like it's working, but I don't dare to bring you back in after the trouble it's been having. So the number is 855 472 5483. That is our show number. We need you to call in that number, 855 472 5483. He's pointing to his phone. There's a problem with the phone. All right, let me try to bring you back in.
Okay.
All right. You seem okay for this. You seem
calls
okay
that
for
number
this
and it's
second.
busy.
Okay. So we're up on the hotspot. Okay.
All right. Well, you're using the hotspot, but just pay. That's weird. She said it was busy trying to call you as well. So we'll try to continue.
Okay.
But I might, just keep that 855 number handy and
Yep.
call it back if you happen to drop. So
I've got it
let's
right here.
continue on. And I don't even know where we were.
I do.
Okay,
we
good.
we were just talking about the fact that this bill that's been introduced by Senator Schumer, with the co-sponsorship from Rubio, who is the Republican lead Republican in the Senate Intelligence Committee, and it's got support from virtually everybody except for these four leaders. The head of the House Intelligence Committee, this Mike Turner, and the head of the Republican head in the House of the Armed Services Committee, Mike Rogers, and the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. They've joined together in trying to block this, and it turns out that they're all directly in the pay of the major aerospace industries. The largest contributor to Mike Rogers at the Armed Services is Lockheed Martin. And Lockheed Martin is one of the companies that's in possession of some of this UFO technology, and they don't want to give it up. And Mike Turner is the congressman from the district that has Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is the base to which the UFO that crashed in Roswell was taken. So that we've got the two key spots where the bad guys in this whole thing that are trying to keep secret their access to this so they can make it into weapons. It's their home base, and these are the two guys that are leading the charge to stop this bill, to make them have to cough this information up and give it to the intelligence committees of the Congress. And these guys are betraying their entire obligation as congressmen, not only to the country, but to their responsibilities for chairing these two committees. Virtually all of the members of their committees support this bill in both the House and the Senate, and yet they're digging in and doing the bidding for these private for-profit corporations that are paying for their campaigns. I mean, this is a crass demonstration of the bribing of these Congress people, by the aerospace industry to be able to keep this technology. That's what's happening right here. Now,
well, it's to me, I could go on and on, about what I think about this, but I've always thought, the campaign contributions, the lobby system is important, but when it's used for greed and money and power.
Yes.
It's corruption, in my opinion.
Yes.
So I guess I would like to say this. Do you think it's possible that there's some other type of pressure that they're giving besides financial? Do you think that they could be like, we cannot let this secret out? This is our, bread and butter, or whatever it is that these major private corporations that have these. Do you think there's other pressure they're giving them, or do you think it's just financial?
Well, it's financial and political in that what they've demonstrated in the past, and we've proven it, is that they have destroyed the political careers and destroyed the professional careers in government of anybody who doesn't do their bidding. I mean, that's been going on now for 75 years. And if one wants to see the proof of this, you just go to Richard Dolan's 2 volumes of his book called "The UFOs in the National Security State," and they have right there. They have the documents that show the internal documents where the Central Intelligence Agency and the elements inside the Defense Department have been consciously destroying the political careers of people who defy them. So this is more than just financial support. This is threats that they make to people, to their families. This is a criminal syndicate that is functioning here to try to capture and keep secret this information. Now, the people who are the primary people moving to try to get some public revelation of this information come from within the Defense Department. They're honest, patriotic military people and intelligence people who are fed up with this type of criminal self-dealing that these aerospace industries are engaged in. And what they're doing is they're bribing. Not only they're hiring the people, offering them hundreds of thousands of dollars as consultants to come over and help support their ability to keep this secret. They've hired guys like Jay Stratton. They've hired guys like Travis. They've hired people like and others to come in and just take hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to be on their team to keep this secret.
Oh,
This is a display of the type of corruption that has plagued our American democratic system, and it's been confounded by the United States Supreme Court passing the case, Citizens United, that allows these corporations to pay tens of millions of dollars to the chair people of these committees to bribe them into protecting their financial interests. This isn't a program about the corruption of government right now.
yeah.
But what it's doing is it's coming to rest on this extraordinarily important issue that over 80% of the people in the country, believe that that UFOs are real, that they're extraterrestrial in origin. They believe our government has gotten their hands on, one or more of these craft, and that they're trying to back engineer the technology to make a weapons system. It's the old Sufi saying is that when a pickpocket meets a saint, all he can see are his pockets. And that's what's going on here. These people are corrupting our entire political system, and now they've made their move to capture and keep secret probably the most important single piece of information that our entire human family could have, of the fact that we are not alone, that there
Mhm.
is an entire extraterrestrial civilization that surrounds us, that their people are coming and going from our planet. And these people in the aerospace industry and some certain element deep within the deep state of our American government are trying to establish confidential relations with these people, much to the detriment of our entire human family. You couldn't ask for a more outrageous demonstration of the perfidy of these people. Like now Mike Turner and Mike Rogers. I mean that these people need to be removed. That they're being paid they're basically having cash delivered to them in brown paper bags across their desk in the Senate and in the House, to protect the financial interests of the stockholders of these private corporations. So that, I mean, that we've got to come to grips with this fundamental problem. In this particular bill, which has got virtually uniform support from all the Republicans and all the Democrats in the House and in the Senate who are not on the payroll of these private aerospace corporations, are all in favor of turning over the information to at least to the Senate Intelligence Committee and House Intelligence Committees. And here's the guy, Mike Turner, who chairs the House Intelligence Committee, who's going to benefit from this. His whole committee is going to benefit from getting access to this information. And he's completely betraying his entire responsibility to function as the chair of this committee, by taking private money from these corporations. So this is people should be, I won't use the term anymore, up in arms, because we're not calling people to get up in arms. We're not asking people to get in the streets with torches and pitchforks, on these guys. But, this has to be stopped. I mean, if we have to throw down on these people in the context of this particular statute that virtually 99% of everybody in the House and Senate wants to pass, and what they're getting ready to do is they're getting ready to abuse their power by, in effect, threatening the other members of their committees, by threatening to remove them from the committee, to take the staff away from them. This is the kind of threats that they're exercising against the members of the House and Senate, our elected representatives, to protect their financiers, these private financiers. And you can bet that Mike Turner and Mike Rogers are just waiting to get permanently and officially employed by these aerospace corporations, that hire them for, tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to come over and be lobbyists for them. That's what's going on here. I mean, this is a total outrage that's going on.
Yeah. So, I want to talk about, we're basically back to square one if this is not part of the Defense Authorization Act, right? I mean, we're just
not square one. We've made so many advances since December of 2017. What this is the offensive move that has been made by an alliance between the traditional UFO community and the people inside the Defense Department and the intelligence community who want to have this information revealed to the people. So we have a coalition that is not going to go away. And the fact of the matter is, these guys, Mike Turner and Mike Rogers and Mike Johnson, they are destroying the credibility of our entire democratic institutions here, where you have the overwhelming majority of people in our country wanting to get this information conveyed into the Congress, to take it out of the exclusive hands of these private corporations and put it into the hands of our elected representatives so they can decide what's to be done about this, and these guys ought to be run out of town.
I agree. I think we should do that. We'll do that ourselves. I have a couple of questions that came in. One of them is from a longtime supporter of the show that helps me with a lot of information. Palmer wanted me to ask you this question here. What certainty, percentage-wise, would you put on some of this UAP UFO technology being representative of non-human intelligence? And then he had another question after that.
Oh, sure. No. That all of this technology that's connected to the UFOs is from a non-human intelligence. I mean, that's clearly so. They're not capturing UFOs that they made themselves and then trying to keep it secret. This is it's extraterrestrial. In what it presents itself, as potentially extra dimensional, because in my opinion, based on some 45 years of experience in this field, is that it presents itself as appearing to be extra dimensional because of the means by which these vehicles travel. They travel in a realm that bends, it warps space time. And that accounts for their being able to move at these extraordinary rates of speed, without having any friction. And it also enables them to turn these 90-degree turns going 20,000 miles an hour, and survive, 5,000 G forces, so this is a technology that is so far beyond anything that any of our human civilizations have developed to this point. And that's why these private industries are so rabidly devoted to trying to get control of this, because they want to be able to make tens of billions of dollars for the next 500 years by monopolizing this technology in the same way that the oil corporations have monopolized petroleum. That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, the old saying you hear, all the way back from the Nixon era was follow the money. It's basically that. Here as well.
It's worse than that. It's worse because what this really is, there's an element inside the United States intelligence community and inside the U.S. military that is devoted to trying to establish full spectrum dominance over the planet. We need to understand that they are functioning on behalf of the major corporations in the United States, that they're funding their campaigns. And what they're doing is they're deploying our military, for example, into the Middle East to occupy the Middle Eastern oil fields so that we can maintain a private set of contracts that have been negotiated by our government on behalf of the major oil corporations, and that's what they're there for. And they've spent tens of thousands of lives of people, not only in the Middle East, but American lives, to secure control over the petroleum, so that they can have a monopoly control over the source of energy on the planet. And they see the UFO phenomenon as a threat, as an alternative source of energy that can be provided to the world to help us deal with climate change, to help us deal with poverty, to help us deal with major agricultural services for the people. They see this as a threat to their monopoly power on the planet, and that's why they're willing to go to such extremes of threatening the lives of people, destroying their political careers, destroying their family lives, by having people branded as insane who simply try to, present the information to legitimate authorities about an encounter that they've had with such a UFO. And they send in secret military people to threaten them and their families. This is a criminal syndicate. This is a federal criminal racketeering organization that we're dealing with here. It's a syndicate that's made up of these aerospace industries and some of the politicians whom they've bribed, and you're looking right straight at them right now with Mike Turner and Mike Rogers and now Johnson, and Mitch McConnell is doing their bidding right now.
Let's say that this thing did get included and it passed. What would it look like for some of these corporations if they had to fess up? And let me just ask you this too. Yeah. And how could we trust that they would totally fess up with what they have?
Well, what we have to do is we have to bring to bear the instrumentalities of our government to extract this information from them. That's why the subpoena power that is in this statute is so important. That this statute specifically provides from Congress the subpoena power to this 9-person board that is to be established by this statute. Gives them subpoena power where they can issue a subpoena what they do is they apply to the Attorney General of the Justice Department to issue a subpoena and to go to federal court and to get the federal district court in the United States to issue a subpoena, a judicial subpoena to these people, mandating that they turn over this information, or they will be held in contempt of court, criminal contempt of court. They can be imprisoned if they refuse to cooperate with our government.
Yeah, but when it comes to corporations, they have protections, don't they? Like, because it's a corporation, not an individual.
Well, no, but the fact of the matter is the subpoenas can be issued to the private management of the corporation. They can subpoena the CEOs, they can subpoena the chief operating officers, they can subpoena them and mandate that they exercise their authority to provide this information to the Congress. And if they don't, they can be put in prison, and that's what they're worried about here. That this statute has teeth in it. It has subpoena power. It has the power to exercise eminent domain, to if necessary, send U.S. military troops to them, to their company, and seize if they've got the crash debris or an intact UFO there. That this can be seized by our United States military.
Now, let me ask you this: I'm playing devil's advocate for them. Could they say, "Oh, let's get into gear and let's bury this and let's get this, away from us somehow, disjointed from our company, and by starting a new LLC or some other corporation or something like that, and then putting all the information that they have on, let's just say they have a crash UAP, they're reverse engineering it, and then they could just push it all over to this new founded company, and not be able to, you wouldn't be able to get access to it because you were unaware of it." Is that a possibility of something like that? Can they hide it?
I spent 50 years chasing down these kind of bad guys. I mean, they've tried.
Okay.
There's a book on this. They follow a particular plan, an MO, where they try to hide stuff, and the Justice Department is very adept at this. The whole Trump administration, for example, lying, cheating, having double sets of books. People know how to pursue these people, down into their warrens. And that's what we're doing. The New Paradigm Institute actually exists for the purpose of seeing to it that this statute, once it's passed, is actually enforced. We're an entree to the citizens groups around the country to mobilize them to make the Justice Department, make the courts, make the president's office, and everybody do their job. That's what we're doing here. That our government is in a serious shape right now because such a growing percentage of the population distrust them. They don't believe that they're doing their job. We've set up a democracy and elected these people to do the work for the people, and they've been completely co-opted by corporations now. I mean, and almost everybody knows that. And to have them exercising that kind of control over our democratic government in an issue that is as important as this to our people, that everybody wants to know if in fact there's an extraterrestrial civilization. Everybody wants to know if they're coming to our planet. Everybody wants to know if we have an opportunity to establish peaceful diplomatic relations with an entire extraterrestrial civilization that has the potential for assisting us. And they're not here to help us, to save us from ourselves. But the fact of the matter is, they may well know the answers to a lot of important questions that our human family has been struggling with for decades and for centuries to try to figure out. And these people, out of their own personal greed and avarice, are trying to conceal this from the American public and the world.
A lot of times you see in these movies, these sci-fi movies, the dystopian future that is run by corporations, and the corporations are controlling the masses. And that's kind of, when I hear things like this, it kind of like saying, in some ways we are, we head in that way because they have all the power of what they're doing right here. This particular situation is a good example of that, where they can manipulate, people in power in our government to change something on their behalf, which I think is totally terrible.
Well, the reason that the science fiction movies are projecting that is because they can see that that's what's happening. They can see if you project into the future what the dynamics are that you can absolutely establish beyond any reasonable doubt right now. You project that along the same algorithm into the future, and that's exactly what you get. You get this complete corporate autocracy, running the world, and that we've got to stop this thing, and that this provides it. We had not intended to have this be a showdown, in which we were trying to take on the fundamental issue of the corruption of our American political system through the corporations. But if they want to throw down on this thing, that we have probably one of the biggest completely bipartisan coalitions in the history of the country around this UFO thing. That we've got, as I say, 99% of the members of both political parties wanting to get this bill passed. And if we end up discovering that this corruption has infected our government so seriously that they're going to try to conceal this secret from us and potentially threaten the other members of Congress and threaten their families in order to protect their personal greed, then this may well be the battleground where a lot of these things are going to get resolved, because we aren't going to stop. I mean, we're going to mobilize the people. We're going to share information with the people. We're going to help organize the people. We're going to focus on the congressional districts where these corporations have so corrupted the elected representative that they're betraying their obligations to their people, and betraying their obligations even to their positions in Congress. You have the head of the Intelligence Committee taking a position that the Intelligence Committee should be denied access to this information. I mean, that's a complete defiance of his responsibilities as the chair of the committee.
I have there's a long, let me just post this question. There's a lot of people that I think may want to call in. I'm not really sure. This is a long time chat person here. He wants to know, is it wrong for Congress to try to compel the government to disclose when it's distinctly possible that the ETs are forcing the government to cover it up on pain of some terrible punishment to humanity? I don't know what you think about that question, but what do you,
No, I mean, let me say this. It's totally unnecessary for the UFO people to try to, make our corporations be corrupt. They're completely capable of doing this completely on their own, and everybody knows that. It doesn't require some esoteric theory as to the fact that the UFO people are behind this. These corporations have done this. I mean, you've got the oil corporations polluting the entire planet, threatening to destroy the entire life generating capacity of our planet, and yet they still won't stop. And you try to bring this to the attention of the political representatives, and the oil corporations start spending literally billions of dollars in campaign contributions to the key people to stop them from interfering with the profit seeking of the oil corporations. So that this is not unique to this particular issue, but it's just that this issue is so profoundly important to so many people. And very importantly, it is completely nonpartisan. That we have organized a coalition of people that is completely bipartisan. It's under the point of being nonpartisan to get this done. It's like trying to prevent cancer, or something. And these people are blocking us, and they've turned these guys, Mike Turner and Mike Rogers and Mike Johnson and Mitch McConnell, have turned them to the point where they're betraying their country. They're betraying the Constitution. They're depriving the Congress of the United States of this information that we need our representatives to have in order to govern. They're ruining the possibility of developing a logical, rational, diplomatic relationship with an entire extraterrestrial civilization. So for their own private gain is what they're doing.
Do you think they're getting a lot of pushback, these four people, the three Mikes and the Mitch?
Yes,
Do you think
they
they're
are
getting a
getting,
lot of pushback? Yeah.
they are. They are getting a lot of
Eh,
pushback. They're getting
What do
pushback
you
from
hear
people.
about that? Yeah.
Well, the bottom line is they're getting pushback from the people who actually possess a lot of the information, and they're being kept silent under threats of revoking their national security clearances or punishing them with criminal charges if they come public with what they've got. But I can tell you, the fact of the matter is, that I've spent years, like for example, uncovering the fact that the Iran-Contra off-the-shelf enterprise was criminally smuggling cocaine into the United States and providing weapons to the Contras in complete defiance of Congress. But we were able to find that out, and we were able to get that information revealed. I've never agreed to accept a national security clearance. I'm perfectly
Mm.
capable of getting this information, and I have every intention of making it public if they will not cooperate. We are offering them a compromise in this bill to set up a process whereby they can have a carefully controlled disclosure of this information to the American people and to the world. We're providing safeguards so that they can protect the sources by means of which they gain information. We're perfectly prepared to protect the genuine national security of the United States. But what they're doing is they're running a risk, just like happened in the Pentagon Papers case, which I was one of the main attorneys for the New York Times in that case. In that Whitney North Seymour, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, who was representing the Nixon administration, they absolutely refused to allow us to publish anything that was in all 47 volumes of those Pentagon Papers. And they refused to point out to us what, if anything, in those papers they were insisting, if it was made public, would irrevocably damage the national security of the United States. They refused to tell us what it is they were talking about. And so what we did is we got all 47 volumes published by the New York Times. And we now have the New York Times prepared to publish information that we bring to them, from deep inside these structures. We can bring the information to the New York Times. We can bring the information to 60 Minutes. We can bring the information to the internet, and we can make it public. And if they don't want to have a sound and responsible methodology by means of which the information can be vetted carefully, and important information that they can convince us ought to be kept secret, if they refuse to do that, then they're going to pay the consequences for it. And I can assure them that I will do everything in my power to make sure they do. And I'm going to do everything I can do to make sure that these people, these criminals, go to jail for what they're doing. We're offering them amnesty. We've offered in the other parts of the legislation. We've offered amnesty to them. We've offered to allow them to come forward and provide the information to Congress, and have Congress exercise a responsible judgment about how much of this information should be released to the public and pursuant to what kind of a schedule. But
Mm.
they're still refusing to do it. They won't even allow that to be done. So I mean, that they better be careful about what they're doing here, because I've spent 50 years in doing this. I've been involved in publishing the Pentagon Papers. I've been involved in exposing the off-the-shelf enterprise of the Iran-Contra committee people. We've exposed the fact that the Kerr-McGee Nuclear Corporation was providing 98% bomb-grade plutonium to Israel and to Iran at the same time. We've done this down through the 50 years. They should realize that this is not a hollow threat that I'm making here.
Yeah.
This is an absolute promise that we will do this if they won't cooperate.
Wow. Well, I'm really glad you're on our side. um, this the one thing you mentioned a couple of things about what can be secret, what can be let out. Now, I truly think, now I may be wrong, you can tell me if I am, but I really think they're going to use the umbrella of national security a lot in this situation to be able to keep things from the public. I understand part of that, certainly when it comes down to, things that would affect national security. But do you think that's what they're going to try to protect everything with?
Well, but you'll notice that if you'll forgive me for saying so, you'll notice that you don't know what you're talking about. That you can't even give an example of what you're talking about, and they don't either. They say, "Oh well, there's something awful could happen here. You could really." I'd say, "Like what? Like what are we talking about here?" And they go, "Well, I can't tell you because it's so threatening and so terrible." And they are lying sea bags. They've lied openly about this over and over again. They lied about it in the Pentagon Papers. They lied about it in Iran-Contra. I mean, Oliver North got right up in front of the Congress and said, "Absolutely, I lied to you." I mean, this was a
Yeah, I
covert
remember that.
operation. I couldn't tell you.
Hmm.
And so I mean, we've established a national security state here since the National Security Act of 1947, in which they feel completely authorized to lie to Congress and to lie to the world. And it's turned out that over and over and over again, it's on behalf of corruption. And what they've
Yeah.
done is they have devoted themselves, and it says so. If people go and look at the 1992 United States Defense Department Policy Planning Guidance document that was prepared by Dick Cheney, as the Secretary of Defense for George Bush Sr., and Paul Wolfowitz, and there was a Scooter Libby was in on it. Doug Fife was in on it. There's particular people. I know exactly who they are. They drafted a proposal for maintaining the size of their military budget, even though the Soviet Union had officially agreed to step out of the Cold War and step back and dissolve the Soviet Union. And they were so frightened about losing their government contracts for military equipment that they designed a program for it, and openly stated in the classified document that their objective was to maintain the continued privileged access to the strategic raw materials that were needed by our American industry. I mean, they said it, in the document. So we know what it is that they're up to here. That we do not want to pull down the pillars of the state, in order to get them off their pedestal. But if they insist upon this, we will, in fact, pull them down, and we don't want to have to do that. We're doing everything that we can reasonably do to try to establish a reasonable, controlled disclosure of this information. But that if they don't leave us any choice at all, and it's going to come to a point where it's going to be too late for them when they come back and say, please stop. You're really probing into things where that something terrible is going to happen. Well, something terrible that they think is going to happen is they're going to lose their power. They're going to lose their monopoly power over the sources of energy, over the control of Congress. If this information comes out, and they can either do this in a gradual and responsible way, or it will be, unfortunate for them.
What can I do as an American, or anyone that's listening to the show right now as an American? What can we do to help this process to make sure that this thing doesn't get killed, or try to attempt to stop it from getting killed?
Well, it's very simple. It's very simple. You can go on to the New Paradigm Institute website, and you can find the information that tells you exactly who your 2 United States senators are, exactly who your congressional representative is, and also find on that website the names of the people that are in charge of these special committees. And what you do is you send out every form of communication that you can. You telephone them, you send them emails, you send them letters. You go to their offices and tell them that you want the Schumer Amendment, which is the UFO basically Controlled Disclosure Act. You want this thing passed, and you want it passed intact, the way that it is now, along with its subpoena power, along with the authority that it has to exercise eminent domain, to retrieve any type of technology that's been taken by these aerospace industries and trying to privatize it. This has to be left intact. And that's just contact both of your senators and your congressional representative from your district and tell them that you insist that they maintain the Schumer Act in the National Defense Authorization Act. It's a simple proposition. What I'm really saying is that you have to actually be a citizen.
Yes.
Actually be a
Yeah.
citizen. Stop being just a spectator, standing back watching, wondering what's going to happen here. Get on the telephones, send out the emails, and just swamp these guys with the demand that they pass the Schumer amendment. Period.
And what type of we're under a deadline here. This is timely, right? We're
Yes.
talking this
Oh,
month.
December 21st. December 21st. They're going to vote on this.
Yeah.
In the so we've got here 20 25 days or so, within which we've got to be able to push back against Mike Turner and Mike Rogers and Michael Johnson and Mitch McConnell, specifically these four people, who are on the take from the aerospace industry. And we've got to push back against them. And what we have to do is we have to instigate a revolt on the part of the people that are in the Senate and House Conference Committee, and a revolt on the part of the people, of the majority of the people that are members of the House Intelligence Committee and the House Armed Services Committee, revolt against their leadership. That these leaders that are there are the ones that have been targeted by the aerospace industry to bribe them, and so that we have to have an insurrection, a constitutional insurrection against this corrupt leadership. And it's manifesting itself most especially in the House of Representatives right now. But everybody knows that. Everybody knows that the House of Representatives are in total disarray right now. They can't even legitimately pick a Speaker of the House. They've got this guy Mike Johnson, look at everybody, just study who Michael Johnson is. He's a complete fundamentalist moron, and there he is in charge of the House of Representatives, and he's using that power right now to block the American people from being able to find out that we're in possession of a number of UFOs, and that we're secretly this deep state is deeply involved in trying to back engineer this technology to make a weapons system out of it, to establish full spectrum dominance over the planet. And it's our opinion that there's only a minority of people in our country who agree with that. And most of them are in the aerospace industry.
Now, when you say something like this, do you actually have any evidence that that they are actually trying to back engineer for weaponry, or is this typically what the Defense Department would do? I think it is, because the atom bomb, they split the atom, and first thing they think of is how to kill people. But I mean, is this speculation, or do you have some type of evidence that there might be a weapon?
Oh no, it's perfectly clear, because the actual effort to deal with this issue was inside the Advanced Weapons Special Access Program. I mean, that's where they're hiding it. So it's all for the attempt to develop an advanced weapons system. That's what they're doing. It's a function of the national security state. That is, we've got an annual military budget that exceeds that of the other top 10 nations in the world combined. And they still keep trying to buffalo everybody into thinking that this is for defense purposes. And yet, we're over in the Ukraine, we're sending billions of dollars of military equipment to bomb the crap out of the Gaza Strip now. We're invading the Middle Eastern oil fields. We've got military troops that we sent to Afghanistan. We've sent them to, we've supported military dictators all through South America, that have been torturing, their people. The time is come that we've got to come to grips with what's going on here, and that these people are now threatening to keep secret the fact that there's an extraterrestrial civilization surrounding us and open to us participating in an entire galactic civilization, in their trying to make like so primitive tribe on some island in the middle of the South Pacific. Nope.
So yeah,
Okay.
your internet just did a little hit. Your
I'm
internet.
Yes, I'm back, but I'm back. Really, the people have to really decide whether they're ready to go to the mats, to get this information. And that I think they are. And I'm going to do my very best, based on 50 years of working in this area, to educate the American people, to let them know exactly what this bill is offering to do, educate the people as to what the whistleblowers are saying, and also to exercise whatever access I have to these potential whistleblowers, to offer them a pro bono legal representation, to have them come forward and provide the information to the United States Senate Intelligence Committee. That's where the impetus is coming from, is coming out of the Senate Intelligence Committee with Senator Rubio and Senator Warner and other people that are in that committee, saying this is outrageous that the Senate Intelligence Committee doesn't have this information in order to make policy decisions for our country. It's an absolute, total constitutional crime that is being perpetrated here. And we as citizens have to stand up for the Constitution and protect ourselves.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up something right here. I know you have, I'm sure you have seen this. This came out. Whoops, let's see. Okay, I didn't set up this computer to do it, but I'm sure you, let's see if it works. Hang on just a second here. Okay, I don't know if that's going to work or not. Nope. Okay, I'll work on this later. But this article came out from the Daily Mail. Whoop, you there?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me, Daniel, but Danny, this article came out from the Daily Mail. I'm not sure if you saw it. Oh, here it is.
Yes.
Okay. It's actually showing on the screen. That's, yeah. So I know, again, unfortunately, they can't name any, people, which is unfortunate. And I know that's what a lot of people are complaining about. We don't have any of the names. How can we be so sure and all that? But anyway, I think that the timing of this thing coming out is kind of interesting when this whole situation is going on, and this just happened to come out, at the same time.
Yeah. Well, Josh, I've given a long interview to Josh Boswell, just the other day, and we're all working together constitutionally and lawfully to try to bring this information to the American public. And as I say, that we aren't going to stop. I mean, we're going to keep rolling this information out, and it's going to become more and more intense. There's going to be more and more details provided, and we're eventually going to get to the point where we are going to be naming the names of these people. I mean, that we're trying to act responsibly and entirely constitutionally. That we need to make it clear to the American citizens that we are the good guys. We are the people that support the American Constitution. We are the people that support getting information to our elected representatives. That there is this criminal syndicate that is on the other side of this, and I'm not trying to get people, revved up to the point where they're going to hate them or, drag them out of their offices and throw them in the street. I'm just saying that what we have to rise up and mobilize all of our affirmative support for getting this stuff passed and make sure that our government is working for us, or we're going to have to start replacing these representatives. That's what we're going to have to do.
Now, I've just got permission from the radio station that I can go another 22 minutes or 23 minutes, something like that, or 20 minutes, and which I'd like to do if you're okay with that. And I wondered if you'd be willing to take a couple phone calls from people. I'd like Yeah. So if you're going to call in, the number is 855-472-5483. And please make it a question about what Danny is talking about tonight, and not, about anything like a sighting or anything like that. Has to be related to what we're talking about. And so Chanel is standing by and can take your call. And that number, again, it's up on the screen, 855-472-5483. Haven't been able to look at chat too much. So let me ask you this, Danny.
Mhm.
Is there
Yes.
any publications out there right now that is actually putting out there, I don't care if it's online or in print, the fact that these people in question, the three Mikes and the Mitchell are all, Mitch, are all, have these funds coming to them for campaign contributions? Is it out
Yes.
there?
Yeah, there's the American Almanac of Politics. Just say, where's that? Let me show you a copy of this. Uh, it's never too far away from me. Uh, Here it is, right here. See,
Yeah.
there's the thing. It's called the Almanac of American Politics. Okay,
Yeah.
and you can get a copy of it. You can pull it up on the internet. And what it does is it covers every single person who is a member of Congress, and it tells who their primary funders are. I mean, they're unabashed about it. You know, I mean, that, for example, with Mike Rogers, that Lockheed Martin is their his overwhelming financier. You know, and
Mhm.
his district is right down next to the Redstone rocket missile range. You know, where where they're trying to develop a technology based on the UFO technology to design missiles that go so fast that the Soviet Union cannot mount any kind of a defense against them. For what purpose? I mean, for what
Yeah.
purpose? This is at the same time, the administration is they're actually militarily supporting like trench warfare going on along the eastern boundary of the Ukraine. I mean, it looks like World War One. I mean, they've got minefields up and barbed wire up and stuff. I mean, how ridiculous is this getting to be here? The
Yeah.
American people have to stand up and take our government back from these people. This is ridiculous. So I'm saying that's you go to the Almanac of American Politics, and you'll find out who their major funders are. You'll find out how much was spent on their last election. And some of these guys, they win their election in these red districts by 65 to 70%, and yet they still have budgets of $6 or $8 million they're taking in contributions to pay for their elections. And they're winning their elections by 30 to 40 points. It's just
Wow.
it's just
Amazing.
complete bribery is what's going on.
We got a couple of calls right now. We have line one. We have William calling from Florida. William, whoops, what did I do with? Let's see. There we go. William, welcome to the show. William, can you hear us? Okay, Chanel, I'm not hearing William. Oh, well, I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. William, can you hear us? So, how about now? Okay, Chanel is working behind the scenes feverishly to try to get this to work. Oh, well, I guess we'll wait to see if we hear. We have a couple of callers. William, when you're there, just speak out. This may be, they were working earlier. Live radio, what can you do, right? All right. We're not hearing anything. So I'm going to drop the call for right now. And unless we start hearing something. All right. Well, we may try it later. We'll see how it goes. And Chanel, hello. William, are you there, William? Okay, Chanel, it's not going to work, I guess. Sorry about that. Again, I apologize to the listener. And let's drop this out. And so we've got about 15 minutes. So, the things that you're saying that
heat stays in, okay? Thanks.
There's really nothing that anyone can do about this. You can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. So
As
they're
long as it's not
saying,
just you and me. I hope
yeah,
the
just you
rest
and
of the
me.
outside world can hear us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The producer is saying she can't hear or see me, so I'm not sure what that's about. But you can, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So Chanel, if you can hear us, we're not hearing the phone line unless I hear someone now. Okay. All right. I'm going to drop the phone out, and I apologize, everyone. I apologize to the people that tried to call in, and they'll be working on that at KGRA Radio. Try to fix that. So, is there anything someone can do from outside the U.S.? They really can't, right?
Well, one of the things that we're doing at the New Paradigm Institute, which is based in Washington D.C. We have offices right on Capitol Hill. I mean, we are the only civilian group that is authorized to have offices inside the federal enclave, on Capitol Hill. So I mean, we are perfectly situated. I spent 20 years there in Washington D.C. I was the general counsel for the United States Jesuit Order. In their National Social Ministry Office that dealt with public policy issues there. And so that we have been given permission to be on Capitol Hill to be able to provide information to the intelligence committees and to the armed services committees and to the House Oversight Committee and others to enable them to maintain this type of a nonpartisan, bipartisan support for this bill. That because we think this is an extraordinarily important opportunity to try to get past some of this extraordinary tribalism that's going on here. Of every single issue that comes up, having to have a Republican position and a Democratic position, the red team against the blue team.
Yeah.
This is completely dysfunctional. What we're saying is, look at this issue is so nonpartisan and so bipartisan that we have been trying to present an opportunity to our political parties and to our government to come back together again to support this. As President Nixon said in a slightly different context at the UN, he said, that the most important thing that could possibly bring all of our people together is to realize that there's an extraterrestrial civilization here, and that we are human. We're all human beings on this planet. We all live on a planet that is a rare planet that is able to gestate life. And that for that reason, it's attracted a lot of attention inside the galaxy. And we need to preserve it. In fact, the matter is, in a substantial plurality of the instances where people say that they've actually had any direct person-to-person contact with the occupants of the UFO vehicles, that there are two things that they keep saying over and over again. Number one, you've got to get rid of your nuclear weapons programs, that they're threatening the entire destruction of your planet. And to poison the life-giving capacities of your planet. And secondly, you've got to stop polluting your planet with petroleum. That you're polluting your planet and contaminating it. And you're going to ruin the entire climatic system of your planet. These are two things that they say over and over and over again. People keep saying, "Why aren't they down here helping us? Why don't they give us an alternative source of energy?" What they're saying is that that they're trying to help without intervening in our whole evolution here. Now I don't want to go wildly speculating, and I have never wildly speculated about what all their motives are, or why they don't reveal themselves more directly, or why don't they give us direct access to some technology that would provide clean energy for our planet. I don't know what the answers to those questions are, but I do know that if we're going to get the answer to these questions, we have to have our elected representatives put into possession of the information about them, and that is being squirreled away by these private corporations in relationship to some weird deep state operation that's going on here that was created apparently in 1947, right after Roswell, by President Truman, that he apparently appointed a group of people made up of American business people and bankers and some military officials and intelligence officials to the point where they have basically captured the governing power of our country, with regard to this important issue. And you can bet other issues as well. And so that what we're proposing is that this opportunity of the people who are so interested in trying to find out the answer to one of the most important and most profound questions that face our entire human family as a species, that this ought to mobilize us and motivate us to try to cure this problem of corporate corruption that we have on our planet right now. That we've got to take control back of our governing structures, and we ought to do it in the context of getting access to this information. We have to demonstrate that we're worthy of participating in a peaceful way with our neighbors in our galaxy. If we're going to get access to figuring out how to come and go from their cultures, to learn from their cultures what might be of benefit to us, we're going to have to demonstrate a responsible willingness on the part of our citizenry to stand up to these corporate forces on our planet and take back our constitutional authority to govern ourselves. That's what this is all about.
Well, I just heard from Chanel. She wants to try the caller again. So here it goes. We'll see what happens. All right. So we have, I think it was from, William from Florida. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you?
Yes, it's working. Yes. Yeah. You have a question
William.
for our guest? Yeah.
I do. Danny, I've been a long follower of you. I support your endeavors 100%. I'll just tell you from personal experience, and I think that's the best way I can say it, is that way too much information is overclassified. That's a fact.
Yeah, right.
I know that. A lot of other people know that. But here's my question to you. What do you think should be made public, that the public has the right to know because it's such public significance, versus what should be kept private?
Well, let me answer the first part of that first. I think that clearly we should be informed that there is an extraterrestrial civilization here in our galaxy, that there are as many as 5 million other highly intelligent, highly technologically developed, but non-human species in our galaxy. That we need to be informed about that. We need to know how many of them have developed interstellar space travel, how many of them have come to our planet, what, if anything, their agenda might be with regard to our planet, what steps can be taken by our citizenry to establish a peaceful and productive and cooperative relationship with the members of this extraterrestrial civilization. What can we do to preserve our own integrity, our own sovereignty, our own agency over our own civilization, and still become a cooperating participant in this extraterrestrial civilization? These are things that we need to know, and we need to have conversation about these things. And the problem is that until such time as the people are notified by authoritative sources that this is the fact, people are going to continue to not pay attention to it. They're going to keep on thinking, well, we don't know for sure whether it's true or not. But the fact is, 80% of the people in the country are convinced that UFOs are real. 80% of the people believe they're extraterrestrial, but until such time as our elected representatives are willing to come forward and share this information with us, people are going to spend their time, focusing on much more short-term objectives that they have in their lives. And that we need to prepare for this. We do not want to be shocked and stunned by the revelation of the fact that there's such another civilization here, by them having to kind of intervene in some way to protect our planet from being destroyed by a thermonuclear war by ourselves. And that we don't want to have them have to intervene to stop us from destroying our planet with global climate change by being attached to one particular form of generating our electrical energy. We don't want to have such an intervention be necessary. So we need to have the information that is going to adequately convince the overwhelming majority of our people that this is true. So that's the answer to the first part of your questions. What are some of the things that need to definitely be communicated to our people? The second part of your question is, what kind of things might need to be secret? We have identified in this bill here some of the things. We don't need to know the names of a particular official, who has been guilty of destroying the lives of other people. We don't need to know the names we don't have to, extract a pound of flesh from the people who've been involved in this covert operation to keep this secret all this time. A substantial majority of them are dead now. It's been going on for 75 years, but there are people, without any doubt at all, there are people that are alive today who have committed crimes in order to try to protect this information and keep it secret so that other people can make, gross private profits off of the effort to back engineer this stuff. And they are guilty, as I pointed out, of being a federal criminal racketeering enterprise. That it meets all the criteria for this. And we prosecuted the off-the-shelf enterprise of Oliver North and his people, and we sustained it with a special prosecutor getting appointed. He filed criminal charges against them, asserting that they were engaged in the very criminal racketeering enterprise that we identified. And G. Robert Blakey, who is the one who was the chief counsel for the Senate Judiciary Committee that drafted the Federal Criminal Racketeering Act, he said that was the most effectively pleaded criminal RICO statute case he'd ever seen. So we're perfectly capable of doing that, of laying out the details, as a special prosecutor of these people. And we will insist upon doing that if they continue to push back against our being able to mobilize our political representatives to take constitutional action to protect ourselves in this information and get it to us. If they're going to force us to do this, we will have to get an administration into power, in 2028. It's too short a term now to deal with it in the 2024 election, which is threatening mayhem in itself coming up. But in 2028, we're going to start working right from, if they don't allow this statute to be inserted and passed into law in the National Defense Authorization Act here in December, we're going to mount a 5-year campaign that is going to culminate in 2028 in putting in a new administration, because there's going to be a new administration in any event, even if Biden wins in 2024, or if Trump were to win. He's already served a term. Neither one of them can serve more than another term. So we know that there's going to be a new administration in power in 2028. What we're going to do is mobilize our American people and put an administration into power in 2028, not only in control of the White House, but in control of the Senate and in control of the House of Representatives, that is going to make this information public. And that's what we're going to do. Now, the question that you ask as to what might be some of the things that shouldn't be revealed, as I've said, we don't need to know the individual names of individuals who may have committed some of these crimes. We're willing to grant amnesty to them. This can be done confidentially, even if necessary, through the Defense or through the Justice Department. We don't but there's very little. There's very little relating to this issue that is legitimately classified to protect the national security of the United States.
Technology. I'm sorry. You don't think the technology should be classified?
Classified? Why?
Well, we're not the only ones that have this.
So what? I mean, that's like saying we ought to keep confidential the secrets of electricity because we don't want anybody else knowing about it. You know, what's what we have to have is a treaty that we all agree prohibits anybody in any country anywhere utilizing the technology to develop any kind of a weapons system. You know, that's the key. What we have to have a treaty that prohibits this. You know, if it's available to other people to.
Countries, Danny.
Pardon?
I don't know how you do that with communist countries.
With communist countries? What do you mean?
Russia, China. How do you get them to enact a treaty about this exotic systems that they may or may not have that they're trying to develop into weapons just like we are?
Well, what I think you don't understand is that the fact is that the Soviet Union and China decades ago had agreed that if the United States would agree to disassemble its nuclear weapons, it will disassemble all of its nuclear weapons. They will agree not to have any kind of nuclear weapon systems at all. You know, they've agreed to that to begin with. It isn't the communist countries that were causing the problem here. It was the United States. The United States insisted upon having nuclear weapons so that they could force their will across the world. You know, that's what we've got. That's the problem we've got here. That what we have to do is have the United States be willing to put forth a treaty that is enforceable to prohibit anybody in the world from using any of this technology for weapons purposes. Now, the problem is that they want to give special advantage to our American corporations to be able to use it even for private purposes and for civilian purposes. That's not a legitimate interest on the part of our national security. We don't have to have monopoly control over the natural resources of the planet. You know, we don't even have to have, as 5% of the population of the planet, we don't have to consume 40% of all the natural resources of the planet every year. That's not a national security interest. That's just private greed and avarice. You know, we need to have an entire different view of our human family as one united human family on our planet. And we need to share the resources. We need to have the peaceful development of all of these different kind of resources that we have. You know, we don't have to lord it over the rest of the planet. We don't have to have a national defense budget every single year that's bigger than the 10 other countries in the world. You know, we don't have to do that. You know, and now this may require kind of a profound change in attitude, but that's exactly what the reality of the extraterrestrial civilization offers us, is that it can completely and profoundly transform our entire perception of ourselves as a human species, as one unified family that can participate in a cooperative way peacefully. And I think that the treaty banning the use of any of the UFO technology for any weapons purposes at all is a very important first step. And it will be one of the major planks in the platform of a new 2028 administration here in our United States government. It has to be. We have to take this step because we've been the bully on the block, you know, for the last 75 years. That's what we're doing. I mean, and all you have to do is think about it. I mean, you could say, oh, well, what about, you know, Putin and Russia that invaded the Ukraine? I mean, all you have to do is back up and do a little homework and discover that there was an agreement made. We were personally involved at the Jesuit headquarters, involved in meeting with Gorbachev to get him to agree to step back from the Cold War and agree to step back and release all the republics of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. And there was a specific promise that was made by George Bush Sr. and James Baker III to Gorbachev that we would never try to recruit any of the Soviet republics into NATO. It was a specific promise that was made. But as soon as Dick Cheney got into power, along with just Bush Jr., they began one by one to start recruiting those republics into NATO and putting nuclear missiles into those areas. These are things that you need to know about here, and so that it isn't that, that there's this horrible threat of Russia attacking us across the ice caps. That went out back in the 1950s. What we have to do is have a treaty that prohibits anybody and everybody from making any kind of use of the technology to develop any kind of a weapon system. And we can enforce that if the United States will abide by it. I'm sure that we can get China to agree to that, and we can get Russia to agree to it. We can get every country in the world to agree to it.
Well, thank you, William. We actually have people standing by to talk to you, and one of them is, let's see, we have Dave from Toronto. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for calling in. You have a question for Danny?
Yes. We've heard a lot of very bold claims from some very reputable people. And my question is, when is the general public going to see some more substantive evidence of what's going on, pictures or video or even more than that?
Well, they're either going to be provided this information pursuant to the UAP Controlled Disclosure Act, pursuant to a specific calendar. That there's a specific time. I could go into it in some detail, but they've set forth the details of how that information needs to be unfolded, or it's going to be undertaken in an unmore regulated way. And we're going to bring forth more and more whistleblowers. We're going to be presenting them to the Senate Intelligence Committee. We're going to be providing them to the House Oversight Committee. What we're going to do is we're going to continue to function just as though this law were passed. Okay, and we're going to provide this information to the members of Congress, and we're going to have them exercising their own judgment as to what of this information needs to be made public. They're going to agree to hold public hearings where witnesses like David Grush are going to come forward and under oath, are going to testify under oath in open hearings about what the information is that these major aerospace industries don't want revealed. And we're going to start revealing it in a choreographed manner, step by step. We're going to keep on coming with this information, and it's either going to be under a controlled process or it's going to be under a less controlled process. But that's what we're going to do. So they can take this to the bank.
Wow, great. Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. We have one more caller, and that is Penny from the UK. Penny, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Sheehan, for your passionate contribution to everything to do with this. It's amazing. My question is, please, if the Special Access Program NDAs were signed in organisations within the government that are committing unconstitutional acts, does that actually render them null and void? Because as an organisation, they're sort of committing corporate treason of some sort towards the Constitution?
Yes, that we could in fact take an action to get them declared void because it's a contract contrary to public interest. There's an entire doctrine in contract law that prohibits forcing a person to sign a contract that is fundamentally contrary to the public interest, and that and I've offered to free of charge represent the people who are in possession of information that should be disclosed that is being illegally classified and being kept from the Congress and kept from the public to defend them against such charge. That's why I represented Lou Elizondo. That's why I've represented others. That the fact of the matter is that this information is going to be made available, and that we're going to make the arguments that Congress should be allowed to bring forward this information, and that's what we're going to do. The answer is yes. The bona fides of those non-disclosure agreements can be vitiated if, in fact, it can be demonstrated that the people who imposed those non-disclosure agreements on those individuals were engaged in unlawful criminal activity and unconstitutional activity. That's our position.
That's incredible.
Anything
Thank you so much for answering my question.
Anything else, Penny? I just like to hear your accent so we can.
Yeah,
No.
thank you. The only tiny question I was going to ask is, what sort of areas of personal development does Mr. Sheehan feel that we should be attempting to sort of engage in our sort of daily existence that could help us with this initial sort of baby steps with the NHI and how to realistically present our best side if we're going to have this extraordinary conversation?
Well, it's a very simple answer to that question. The most important thing that anyone listening to this program can do is they can go on Amazon books and order the 2-volume set by Richard Dolan of UFOs in the national security state. And what it's just filled with actual U.S. official government internal documents that detail the history of the UFO phenomenon and the development of a completely unlawful, illegal activity on the part of the deep state of our American government in unlawfully destroying the lives of people who have been attempting to peacefully and constitutionally get answers to these questions. You know, it's easy. Richard Dolan, 2 volumes of the UFOs in the national security state, and just bring it home and read it. Read both volumes of this, and you will become an expert on what the status is of the actual internal government documents already showing what's been going on. I mean, there are letters there from the commanding officers of the United States Air Force to the president saying, we know that these are real. We know that they're metallic craft that are flying at these outrageous rates. We're unable to do anything about this. And we think that there needs to be a major program developed in the government to figure out who these people are that are flying these things, you know, and that was like 50 years ago. And the documents are there. It's simple, you know. Now, and so just tell yourself this: for every person who's listening to this who has not read those 2 volumes, don't complain. Don't complain about how hard it is to get something done if you won't even bother reading the 2 books. You know, there's just 2 volumes of it, and you just go through them, and you'll be familiar with the different kinds of sightings, the different kinds of evidence, the internal documents acknowledging that they know about this, you know, and you will then be fully equipped to talk with your fellow citizens, your friends, your neighbors, your fellow family members, your relatives, to say, look at, there's this 2-volume work of all the internal U.S. government documents showing that this stuff is true and is going on. Here, let me have a conversation with you about this. We have to take control of our own government. Okay? We need to do that by being educated about the facts. And you can get those from Richard Dolan's 2-volume work, the UFOs and the national security state. That's a simple answer to your question, Penny.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you for taking the time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to have to ask Richard for a commission on that. He'll sell some books. But anyway, we have about 8 minutes left, and that's it. There was another caller, but they dropped off. And so actually, we could probably wrap the show here in like 3 minutes. So I think you've really given out all the information that I think that, you know, the people that want to help will do something. And I really thank you for your work. And, you know, it's funny, I sent you an email. Oh, we do have another person. I am so sorry about that. He's been waiting all this time. Okay, so we will bring, let's cancel that wrap and we'll bring Leo in.
Hey, Leo.
Leo, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Hey, Danny, I had the pleasure of meeting you a year ago in Pasadena. So thanks for your attention on doing the right thing and fighting to do kind of good for our human family. I had two questions. The first one was, how has this slipped through the cracks from the checks and balances of other governments, nation states, religious bodies like the Vatican, which is, I'm sure, filled with so many individuals, independent thinkers, intellectuals, and just humans like us? What is this organization, and how has it managed to kind of build an alliance to kind of pull the wool over everyone's eye? Right? That is my first question.
Well,
And
actually, I guess what I'd say is that it hasn't. The reality is that 80% of all the people in the country believe it's true, and they believe they're extraterrestrial. That if you go around the world, a substantial plurality of regular people are sure this is true. The challenge is with the elite, and the answer to that part of the question is, why don't the elite acknowledge that this is true? And the answer to that is that the elite are worried that if this information is made available to the regular people, it's going to undermine the kind of authority that these elite people have. That the people are going to look through them to trying to figure out what the extraterrestrial people know about if they've existed. You got to understand the universe is 13.7 billion years old, and our whole planet is only 3.5 billion years old. So you got 10 billion more years of other civilizations potentially existing in our universe and in our galaxy. And so that if you have a number of civilizations that are even 1 billion years, not 10 billion years, but 1 billion years more advanced than we are, and have had all of that time to philosophize and theologize and develop technologies, etc., that the onslaught of that type of information threatens the elite on our planet, who believe that they need to maintain themselves as the people that the vast majority of people in the world trust to help make decisions about how our human family should be operating. And if you look around the world right now, I guess you can ask that famous question: how's that doing for us? How well are we doing at that right now? So the elite group of people in the academic world and in the financial world, the corporate world, they're all worried about losing control over the resources of the planet. And so that's what's keeping them from doing it. And they're in charge of most of the media, and they're in charge of the universities. They're in charge of the educational processes on the planet. And so that they're very reluctant to give up their unique position and positions of the pyramid of all authority on the planet. So that's the answer to that one, as to why this they've been thinking that they're pulling the wool over the eyes of the vast majority of people, but they're not, because most of the people more or less believe it now. But they're still, they've been trained, the average people have been trained to believe that in order to really act on something, you need to be told by somebody in a position of authority that it's true. Now, that's why it's so important that the New York Times made the decision back in December of 2017 to put out on a front page story the fact they didn't put out the fact that there's UFOs and they're real and that that they've been coming and going. What they did is that there's a secret program inside the Pentagon that is being lied about. So therefore, they think there's some kind of a problem here. And what that did is open the gates for the people coming forward and giving more information to assert that, in fact, there is an extraterrestrial civilization, and they are coming here in the UFO vehicles, and they are engaging in having face-to-face encounters with our human family and attempting to convey to us that we have to get rid of our nuclear weapons programs, and we also have to stop polluting our planet in imposing global climate change on our planet that is threatening to destroy the life-generating capacity of our unique planet here. That these are things that people believe, but we're right on the brink right now of enlisting more and more and more of the people who are in the traditional elite governing class of our human species into acknowledging this. That's what this bill is all about. This bill is the codification at the present state of the development of this movement, of how far we've reached up into the power structure to get significant portions of the power structure to agree that the time has come to make this information available. And what's happening is we're running into this tiny, tiny minority of people inside the elite who are so desperate to stay in control of this information that they're blocking the democratic process, and they're blocking the constitutional form of our government from functioning. And that's why this bill is so important to get passed. And we've got to roll out every single resource that we have at our disposal to get this law passed. And we've only got 25 days to do it. So everybody, even if you're from another country, you need to contact these people in Congress and say, the whole world is watching. The whole world is watching, and that you're embarrassing yourself by failing to demonstrate that democracy really works. If you want to make the best arguments that you can against the ones that William was talking about, the communist countries, that show them that democracy can really work. That's what you need to do. And that we're willing to give up power. We're willing to give up the kind of unilateral power to dominate the whole planet at this extraordinarily important moment as a gesture for bringing our human family together.
Yeah, excellent. I'm so sorry, Leo. I had to cut the second question because we are plumb out of time. Danny, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure, and I hope to have you back on the show again someday.
For sure. Okay.
All right. And good luck with all the efforts. I do appreciate them.
Tell them to contact their congresspeople right now.
That's right. Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Sure.
All right, everyone. We will be back next week with Kevin Wright. And actually, he will be continuing a little bit more of this talk. And don't forget, we have Crossfire on Thursday night on this YouTube channel. I'm going to be administrating it, and that will be at 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much, everyone. And remember to keep your eyes to the sky.